This year, the first European Grand Prix is also the first San Marino Grand Prix. And since the Republic has no racetrack of its own, it's being held on the magnificent 3.1-mile circuit at nearby Imola. After Long Beach, Brazil and the Argentine, Carlos Reutemann there leads the World Championship from his Williams teammate, the reigning world champion Alan Jones, with Nelson Piquet in third place, 9 points ahead of Patrese and Prost. But here at a wet and overcast Imola, after more political squabbling and contention over car specifications, to the delight of the partisan crowd, their idol, the French-Canadian Gilles Villeneuve, is right back on top in pole position in the revised 1.5-litre turbo Ferrari. Second fastest, it's the World Championship leader Carlos Reutemann in his Williams. Then, third and fourth fastest, the turbo Renaults of René Arnoux and Alain Prost. Nelson Piquet's fifth, ahead of Didier Pironi in the second turbo Ferrari, with John Watson a superb seventh place. That's the practice order, and now we're getting away to the warm-up lap, and as you can see, the sky is overcast. Although it isn't actually raining now, it has been raining earlier this morning, and the circuit is very damp. Now we're going round the circuit, and up in the top right corner of your screens you see a number which you will continue to see, and as you will see now, those numbers indicate camera positions, and the circuit map is flashing as you look at the part of the circuit that each camera overlooks. So now we're up to the Tosa bend, the acute left-hander, where it then starts to go uphill towards the Piratella in view of camera 5. They stream away up the hill. You'll see the map start to change in a moment as camera 5 takes over, and the circuit will start to flash at that point. And there it does so. And then from the Piratella, the left-hander, they go down to the view of cameras 6 and 7 at the Acqua Minerale, which is a very tight right, left, right and up a hill, and it's there where if there's going to be any trouble through overcrowding on the first lap, this is the point, the Acqua Minerale, where it will happen. But from the Acqua Minerale we go to camera 8, which takes us up towards the Variante Alta. This is a far stretch of the circuit, fourth gear, and that is where camera 9 takes over, and you will see the Variante Alta at this point now, the left-hander, and then they stream away down towards the Rivazza, which is within view of camera 10. Now the Rivazza is a very demanding second and third gear, two left-hand bends joined together, and they're coming down to them now. Don't forget, this is the warm-up lap, and you can see that there is a very wet part of the circuit. Now, how are the turbos going to go? There are 4 turbo cars in the first 6. 2 Renaults, those are the yellow and white cars we're looking at the background now. The 2 turbo Ferraris of Villeneuve and Pironi. And up there with them, second fastest after a superb lap in practice, Carlos Reutemann, the World Championship leader in his Saudi Leyland Williams car with the Ford Cosworth V8 engine. And now camera 13 is giving us the view of the Traguardo, which is the left and right, which leads back into the finishing straight. And you can see the cars coming in the background on a part of the circuit that is still very damp to form up, all 24 of them in 2 rows in staggered formation. And how is the grid going to get away as the lights go green? Let's watch. It's a lovely getaway for Carlos Reutemann, who's going to take the lead as they come up to the first left-hander at the Tamburello. But as he does so, it's one of the Ferraris that are punching through, and it's Gilles Villeneuve, and right behind him Didier Pironi. Reutemann is in third position, Alan Jones is in fourth place. So already on the first half lap, the 2 turbo Ferraris are in the lead, and that's Angel Guerra, the Argentine driver, in the Osella car, who is off and is still in the cockpit, and I wonder why he's not getting out. He wasn't unconscious, I saw his head move, but there goes Pironi, followed by the 2 Williams. René Arnoux is well up, and there's Nelson Piquet, the man who won the Argentine Grand Prix, down in about 8th position. as Villeneuve is pulling away already. There's a Ferrari flag being waved by one of the spectators. They're a really partisan lot here at this Imola circuit, and it's near, as I said earlier on, the Ferrari factory at Maranello, and if there's one thing they want to see, it's a Ferrari victory, because there hasn't been one for a long, long time after last year's unsuccessful racing with the T5 Ferrari. So, towards the end of lap 1, as they come down to the Rivazza, Villeneuve leads from Pironi. Then it's Carlos Reutemann. Alan Jones in 5th position is Riccardo Patrese in the Orange Arrow cars, as Villeneuve really gets the rear end out as he goes round the left-hander coming out of the Rivazza. Now he's into the Traguardo to the end of lap 1. Ferrari leads Ferrari. And the crowd roars, hear them. Villeneuve, Pironi. Then the white Williams, the Saudi Leyland Williams car of Carlos Reutemann. And there is Patrese in the background. Riccardo Patrese taking 4th position from world champion Alan Jones. So on lap 2, the reigning world champion Alan Jones, who has won one race this year because Alan Jones won at Long Beach, is down behind Riccardo Patrese into 5th position, ahead of René Arnoux in the first Turbo Renault in 6th position. We're watching the leaders. Villeneuve. And there is Guerra. That's why he didn't get out of the car. Obviously, his left foot is trapped. You can see his right leg is quite clear, and he's easing himself out of the car, and he's conscious and obviously very clear about how things are, so hopefully he is not badly hurt at all. And now, still on the second lap, this is a terrific lead at this stage of the race that the two Ferraris have got over Carlos Reutemann, and Riccardo Patrese ahead of Alan Jones is starting to close a bit on Reutemann. Watch the orange car in the background. There is Patrese. There is Alan Jones in 5th position and René Arnoux in 6th place. Great driving by Gilles Villeneuve, who's a little slight man. 28 years old, Villeneuve, 29 years old, Gilles Villeneuve, and he looks in his mirrors as he comes out of the Rivazza, and he will see behind him the number 2 man in the team, and there is confirmation of the first lap positions. The two Ferraris, followed by Reutemann and Patrese, then the second Williams of world champion Alan Jones, and in 6th place René Arnoux as we complete lap 2. Villeneuve, Pironi, Reutemann in 3rd place. And there are the flags waving to indicate to the drivers to slow down because the ambulance is on the course. And look at Alan Jones's car. Alan Jones's front aerofoil is badly bent. He's hit a car somewhere, and he can't go on like that. It will affect the handling of the Williams. Alan Jones is in real trouble because he's got to make the decision whether to battle on or whether to come into the pits and have a new nose fitted in the certain knowledge that if he does so, he'll lose a lot of time. Meantime, Villeneuve is still leading. Pironi is still second. There's Pironi. And the Turbo Ferraris are going beautifully. A lot of people said in practicing that they had deliberately turned up the turbochargers to get extra power, knowing that it didn't matter if they blew an engine in practice, and then when the race came, as we look at Reutemann in 3rd place, Patrese in 4th, the Ferraris would have to turn down the boost, and Arnoux is up into 5th position. René Arnoux has got ahead of Alan Jones into 5th position, and the knowledgeable said that the Ferrari men would have to turn down the boost in the race and they wouldn't go nearly quick enough. How wrong they were, and John Watson is 6th, ahead of Alan Jones 7th, Lafitte 8th, and Nelson Piquet in 9th position. So, Jacques Lafitte in the Talbot with the 12-cylinder Matra engine is in 8th position, and Alan Jones is way down the field, comparatively speaking, as far as he as world champion is concerned. There's Reutemann 3rd, Patrese 4th, coming through to complete another lap, and you see the first 6 cars with only about 10 seconds in it between them. Pironi, there's Villeneuve. Well, the Ferraris are certainly not showing any signs of trouble. confirmation of the lap 2 positions. Alan Jones was in 5th position and Arnoux was in 6th position. But as I just said, the positions have dramatically changed, and there is the answer. Alan Jones into the pits, and the nose is coming off. It's quite clear why he came in. And I notice he's still on wet tyres. 1 or 2 drivers started on tyres that were right for dry conditions because they were expecting the circuit to dry out. Well, it is not yet showing any signs of doing so, in which case those drivers, and Mark Surer was one of them, will be wondering whether they should come into the pits and have treaded tyres fitted, what I call wet tyres, because they are more suitable for wet conditions. And there's Jean-Pierre Jabouille in the blue Talbot Matra, the man who drove for Renault last year, broke his leg in the Canadian Grand Prix, and this is his first Grand Prix back since he came out of hospital. There's another interesting entry, number 10, Slim Borgud, the Swedish rock drummer who drums for ABBA, who have sponsored his car. You'll see the word ABBA on the side of it. Alan Jones is having... This is interesting. Alan Jones has not only had a new nose put on the car, but he's having dry tyres put on. Slick tyres that are suitable for dry conditions, and I wonder if that is a wise decision. Well, Alan knows racing better than I do, but this circuit is still very damp. You can see from the way the cars are sliding. Watch Patrese car, as now Villeneuve and Pironi still first and second, and pulling away now from Riccardo Patrese, the orange car here, who is in 3rd position. Patrese. There go the leaders. And it's Reutemann 3rd, of course. Slip of the tongue, for which I apologise. Riccardo Patrese in 4th position. And Eliseo Salazar is in no position at all at the moment because he goes off the circuit there. That's the Chilean driver who has found an enormous amount of money to sponsor himself in the March team. And he goes off the circuit temporarily there. And those are the 2 Tyrrell cars of Eddie Chiva and Michele Alboreto, the Italian, who's driving in his first Grand Prix. Villeneuve, Pironi, still 1st and 2nd. I remind you to ignore the numbers, and there is Alain Prost. Ignore the numbers at the top right corner of your screen. They're camera position numbers. Alain Prost is into the pits. That is the man who is driving for Renault this year, and after 9 laps it's Villeneuve, Pironi, Patrese, Reutemann 4th. Piquet is now up from 9th position to 5th, ahead of his teammate Hector Rebac, who drove so brilliantly in the Argentine Grand Prix, got right up to 2nd place before he had to drop out. And this is the world champion Alan Jones, who, of course, is way down the field. He has been in to have that new nose fitted and is driving on dry tyres. Tyres that are right for dry conditions, and it's still anything but dry. Let's watch and see how Patrick Tambay, number 33, the brilliant French driver who got ousted from Formula One last year and became the Can-Am champion in America, got back into Formula One this year and has been driving superbly, as he is now, against the world champion. A big crowd at Imola, not nearly as big as we expected, frankly, given that Villeneuve was in pole position and Didier Pironi was well up on the grid. But this poor weather must have discouraged a lot of people from coming, fanatical as they are, to see a Ferrari win, because for the last 2 days of practice it has been absolutely glorious weather, clear blue skies and bright sunshine. And they are missing this wonderful sight to an Italian. 2 Ferraris in the 1st and 2nd position still. Villeneuve 27, Pironi 28, and Piquet is now fastest on the field around the circuit as Jabouille blasted out of the pits. That caption went up which told us that Nelson Piquet is now lapping faster than anybody else. The Brazilian, who was accused by a lot of people of having an unfair suspension on his Brabham when he won in the Argentine. This is Marc Surer, the Swiss driver, who, I remind you, started on dry tyres and is still on them, and he's about to be lapped by the leaders, Villeneuve and Pironi. And just confirmation of the positions. At the moment, these two, Villeneuve and Pironi, as they go through the Acqua Minerale bends, are leading. And Nelson Piquet is coming up through the field. There is Jones hanging on with Tombe behind him. Now we will be able to see how two super aces, Villeneuve and Pironi, deal with two more of them, because Tombe, and especially the man in front of him, the world champion Alan Jones, are amongst the best drivers in the world. But they're at a disadvantage here at Imola today because the turbo Ferraris are patently so much faster than the Ford Cosworth V8 powered cars. Look at this. Villeneuve will soon be going past Tombe. And Villeneuve does go past Tombe, but not nearly as quickly as I expected him to, although now he's driving away, and Pironi will be taking up his team position soon by getting past Tombe. He dodges out from underneath the wing of the Theodore car, which Tombe is driving, and resumes his team station in a moment, because now he goes straight past the world champion, and that shows how ill-advised Alan Jones was to fit that. He nearly lost the car there, and Tombe passes Jones. And that shows how, as I was saying, ill-advised Alan Jones was to go onto dry tyres, because he's losing seconds a lap now. A very bad decision, and a surprisingly bad one for Alan Jones, of all people, to make. As world champion, he's very experienced, very level-headed, but he definitely did the wrong thing in having slick tyres put on his car as well as the new nose, and he's paying for it now. But Villeneuve and Pironi continue on their victorious way. Jones in trouble, Tombe going very well indeed, so are the two Ferraris, and it would seem that the race must be in the bag now for Villeneuve and Pironi, provided they can just keep going. That's the only question in my mind. Will the Ferraris be reliable? They're brand new cars. This is their first full season of racing. They appeared at Imola last year when the race was... That's Villeneuve into the pits. Gilles Villeneuve has gone into the pits. He must have heard me speaking and decided he'd prove me wrong. Pironi goes through into the lead. Petresi goes up into second place. Piquet is coming up at fast, and there is pandemonium. Italian pandemonium in the pits. Far too many people there. They should never all be allowed there. Imagine what it must be like trying to work on that car as a mechanic. And there is Villeneuve, and he's come in. Well, this is quite incredible, because Villeneuve, that's Keke Rosberg. It's all about tyres, this race. Keke Rosberg, incidentally, is on Avon tyres, who have entered the tyre war against Michelin in particular, and against Pirelli, who would have been on the Tolman cars if they'd qualified. But the amazing thing is that Villeneuve, like Alan Jones, has opted to fit dry tyres. I just cannot understand it, because although there is a dry line emerging, and we're looking at Pironi, the new race leader, you will see a lighter patch on the road where the cars are, where their tyres have cleared the moisture away. But even so, it's Petresi up into second place now. Piquet is up into third. Reutemann is in fourth position. Hector Ribach in the second. Brabham is in fifth position, underlining the class that he showed in the Argentine Grand Prix, and René Arnoux is sixth. Well, this is a really dramatic development. Villeneuve will be now fighting his way on dry tyres, and we look at the battle now behind René Arnoux for 7th place. It's Mario Andretti in the Alfa Romeo in 7th place. Giacomelli in the second red and white car is in 8th position, and that's another Alfa. Then behind Giacomelli, it's De Cesaris, Andrea De Cesaris, the young Italian in the Marlboro McLaren. And behind them in 10th place in the blue car is the young American driver Eddie Cheever. This is the most interesting actual wheel-to-wheel battle on the circuit at the moment. Let's watch it. Oh, and that's Jabouille. Poor Jean-Pierre Jabouille, the French driver, as we look at his last year's teammate, René Arnoux, in the Renault. Jabouille is in the pits, obviously in trouble in his first race in the Talbot Matra, as Andretti, Giacomelli, De Cesaris and Cheever go through, battling for 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th places. And there is Jabouille again. Well, it looks to me from the leisurely conversation that's going on as though Jean-Pierre Jabouille is definitely out of the race. And meantime, the battle for 7th continues to rage. 2 Alfa Romeos, the V12s, ahead of the Cosworth-powered car of De Cesaris, who is ahead of Eddie Cheever. And we look at Didier Pironi leading the race all on his own. This is the man, Pironi. Now look down the field for the gap to 2nd place, as Pironi, who won the Belgian Grand Prix last year when he drove for Ligier, looks as though he is on his way to the 2nd Grand Prix win in his career. He led at Monaco last year, he led at Spain last year and had to retire from both races when he was in 1st position. He could have won 3 Grand Prix last year. He actually won 1. Is this going to be his 2nd? Look at the lead he's got, because the track is perfectly clear behind him. Pironi leads Patrese with Nelson Piquet in 3rd position, the man who won the Argentine Grand Prix in the Brabham. I was explaining earlier on that Piquet had been accused of having an unfair suspension, not an illegal suspension. There's Patrese 2nd, and there is Piquet 3rd. Piquet is definitely gaining, and Villeneuve, in that clutter of people somewhere, is Villeneuve, who I am told is changing back to wet tyres, and how wise he is and how wrong he was to come in for dry tyres. And the battle for 7th continues to rage. Now, as Villeneuve comes out of the pitch, you can just see the grooves around his tyres, which indicate that he's gone on to wet tyres. And now he will be in an ideal situation to go very quickly indeed. He's on fresh rubber, the right rubber. The car is obviously fit and healthy and strong, and Villeneuve will be very angry with himself and determined to go quickly. But he's way down, he's in about 13th position. Well, the race is a story of tyres as well as engines and as well as turbochargers. The Ferraris are showing that they've got the mixture right as far as power is concerned, but the handling is not all that it might be. Despite the fact that Pironi is in the lead, he's doing it on driving brilliance and engine power. And there's Sura. We just caught a flash of Mark Sura going into the pits as Giacomelli, De Cesaris, Cheever and Andretti has dropped back. Alan Jones has given it best. Alan Jones has given it best, like Villeneuve. Look at the tyres, see the grooves. Mark Sura the same. Both Jones and Sura, who were on wet tyres, dry tyres, have decided to come in and give themselves a chance to get grip by going on to wet tyres. Lap 18 positions, we're beyond lap 18 now. Petroni, Patrese, Piquet, Reutemann, Ribac and Arnoux. And that is the battle for 2nd place between the Italian in the Orange Arrows car, Riccardo Patrese, and the Brazilian Nelson Piquet, the man who won the Argentine Grand Prix in the Brabham. Great stuff. Looking down a clear circuit, waiting for Patrese, now Piquet. There they are. Two of the best people in the business. Riccardo Patrese in the Arrows, car number 29, 27 years old, who comes from Padova, not so very far from Imola, in his 55th Grand Prix. And chasing him very hard indeed, 28-year-old Nelson Piquet from Brasilia, although he's domiciled in Britain at Isha at the present moment, and he's in his 38th Grand Prix. Patrese has yet to win a Grand Prix, although he led in South Africa in 1978. He led at Long Beach this year, had to retire from both of them. Nelson Piquet, on the other hand, has won 4 Grand Prix. Now look, there's Pironi. Now how far behind him are Patrese and Piquet? There is the answer, because that's Patrese and Piquet coming out of the Variante Bassa into the Traguardo to complete another lap. And Piquet has now well and truly got the second place man, Riccardo Patrese, in his sights, literally speaking, as Pironi, the race leader, pulls away. Still in 4th position, Carlos Reutemann. Still in 5th position, Hector Ribach in the Brabham. In 6th position, René Arnoux. And Reutemann, incredibly, there's Alan Jones with Patrick Tambay. Reutemann, Jones's teammate, and Jones is the world champion, and he's about to be lapped. This is incredible. Alan Jones is going to be lapped again very shortly. You remember earlier on we saw him before he came in to change his tyres being lapped by Villeneuve and Piquet with no trouble at all, and it looks as though by Villeneuve and Pironi, and it looks as though Pironi is going to do it again, because he's closing up on the battle between Patrick Tambay and Alan Jones, both of whom are well down. 22 out of 60 laps is the order there. Pironi leading, Piquet second, then Patrese. Piquet second it has there, and there is the answer. Piquet has got ahead of Patrese. Somehow or other, the producers missed it. That must have been a dramatic moment, because Nelson Piquet has only got one thing between him and victory, 2 things between him and victory. The first thing is Didier Pironi, and the second thing would be reliability of the Brabham if he could catch and get past Pironi, which is by no means a foregone conclusion. John Watson there. There's René Arnoux, who is in 6th position. There are the 7th, 8th and 9th men. 7th is Giacomelli, 8th is De Cesaris, 9th in the blue car is Eddie Cheever. So 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and in 10th position John Watson there. So it's a very, very close race, as Mark Sura, going beautifully now on his wet tyres, is thundering along in midfield. And he is going to be caught soon and lapped by Pironi. There is Pironi. He's got past Tambay and has got Alan Jones ahead of him, and that's Eliseo Salazar. Eliseo Salazar, the Chilean driver in the march, has stalled his car at the Variante Bassa, and a very confused and unhappy looking marshal who doesn't know whether to wave his flag, push the car or get out of the way. Well, he's going to do all 3, I think. He's got rid of the pushing responsibility. Now this is uphill. It's illegal to push start the car even if they can get it going, and they have. They must be a lot stronger than they look, because I walked up here yesterday and it's quite a steep incline. Salazar away then, but well out of the running, as Pironi with Tambay holding on to him magnificently. Patrick Tambay is one of the drivers of 1981. And now De Cesaris is challenging Giacomelli, and he's bundled his way through. Giacomelli, a very difficult man to get past, and De Cesaris, his countryman, would have nothing of it. He's just forced his way through. So Andrea De Cesaris is getting up. He's in 7th position now, ahead of Giacomelli, who is 8th. And ahead of them, René Arnoux in the Renault. So there's De Cesaris, 7th, Giacomelli, 8th, Eddie Cheever in 9th position, John Watson behind Cheever in 10th place. There's Cheever, 9th, Watson 10th. And still the battle rages ahead. Pironi is on his own, albeit you will recall chased very hard by the superb Patrick Tambay, who is actually at least a couple of laps down. But we're looking at the battle for 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. Cheever 9th, Watson 10th. Cheever in the Tyrrell, still unsponsored. And Cheever going very well indeed. This young 23-year-old American, Italian-American, born in America, brought up in Italy, ex-kart champion. And John Watson in the new Marlborough MP4 is going to try and take 9th position from Cheever. Comes out of his slipstream, drops back. And this is certainly the best World Championship Grand Prix that we have seen this year. The first one, of course, was at Long Beach, then Brazil, then the Argentine. This is round 4 in a 15-round series. World Championship points to count. 9 for a win, 6 for second, 4 for third, and so on, down to 1 point for 6th position. And Giacomelli, Cheever and Watson are still hammering away, but De Cesaris in 7th position is pulling away. Alfa Romeo, young Bruno Giacomelli, ex-Formula 3 champion, ex-Formula Italia champion, chased by Eddie Cheever, chased by John Watson, and John Watson is one of the most experienced drivers in the race. This is his 111th Grand Prix. De Cesaris there, Giacomelli, Cheever, Watson. And the concentration that you need under these conditions is incredible. The roads are still slippery. Watson trying to take Cheever again, but Cheever's got the line. And of course, all the time, Watson is taking a terrific faceful of spray from the car in front of him. And after 26 laps, no change in the positions. But I think there will be some if this race goes on at the pace that it's being run at now. It's a searing pace. The line is starting to dry out a bit. Watch the circuit as Pironi with Tambay still with him. And there is Piquet in 2nd position. Now, hopefully we'll get a shot and we'll be able to see how far Pironi is ahead of Piquet. There is the 2nd place man, and we might even see a flash of the orange arrows of Riccardo Patrese. Now, there is the leader, Pironi. Where is Piquet? There he is. That's how close Nelson Piquet is. And Hector Ribac, number 6, is well up. He's in 5th position. But Piquet is certainly getting... And somebody off. It's an Alfa Romeo off. It looks... Yeah, it's Bruno Giacomelli. You remember, Giacomelli was fighting... And Cheever's off. Cheever and Giacomelli have taken each other off. Now, whose fault it was, if anybody's, I don't know. Eddie Cheever looks as though he's trying to regain the circuit as the other competitors pass him, but he would no, he was just parking. He's getting out of the car, and he's obviously perfectly all right. Oh, but obviously very unhappy. If looks could kill, I think Giacomelli, who's disappearing through the gateway there, you could just see his crash helmet bobbing. No, there he is with his crash helmet off. Well, Cheever obviously very unhappy, and Pironi must be unhappy because he can see behind him in his mirrors now Nelson Piquet, who is behind Patrick Tambay. Tambay, of course, several laps adrift. He's not in it as far as points are concerned, but he's certainly in it as far as showing style and class are concerned. He's driving a magnificent race. So is Piquet. Piquet has clawed his way up from something like 8th position on lap 1, and now he's going to try and take Tambay. But no, Tambay will have nothing of it, holds his line, and gives Pironi a chance to clear off a bit, and that's how slippery it is. Piquet, of course, started on wet tyres. He's got the right tyres on his car, as has Didier Pironi. And the Ferrari is certainly giving the lie to those people who said that the turbos had been turned up and that they would turn out to be slower or unreliable when race day came. because they have been neither. Don't forget that Villeneuve didn't go to the pits because he had car trouble. He went into the pits because he wanted to change his tyres, and that's very different. And by the way, the scoreboard here shows that Villeneuve is now up into 10th position and going very, very quickly indeed. But the question at the front is, can Nelson Piquet get past Tambay? And if he does, can he do anything about Didier Pironi? And there's Patrese. Patrese is getting closer to Piquet. It's a tremendous scrap for the first, second and third positions in Alboreto. Number 4 is Alboreto, and that's one of the Arcella cars. It's Gabbiani. Now, Alboreto, driving in his first Grand Prix, was in 9th position, 8th position, and Gabbiani was 9th. So they are both out of the race, and that means that Villeneuve will be up into 8th position. Alboreto being pushed off. Cruel luck in his first Grand Prix to have got as high as 8th position and then to have gone off, obviously because of a coming together with his Italian countryman Gabbiani. 33 laps there completed. There are the positions. Reutemann still 4th, Rybak still 5th. De Cesaris is in 6th position now, ahead of Villeneuve, who is 7th. And as they complete another lap, Pironi leads. Tambay behind him has been lapped at least twice. And Piquet, the third of these three cars, is in 2nd position. And it's no discredit to Tambay, incidentally, that he has been lapped. You may wonder how he could have been lapped when I've been saying he's been going so well. The answer is that he too has been into the pits to change his tyres. The Pironi leads Ferrari, turbocharged 1.5 litre, 500 horsepower plus from Nelson Piquet, who looks in his mirrors. And it looks to me as though Piquet is getting ready to challenge Tambay, and the yellow flags are out. That is a warning to watch the circuit ahead. Maybe somebody's gone off. Maybe somebody's still on the circuit, stationary, in which case it could be very dangerous as they go into the Acqua Minerale. I can see no sign of trouble and no yellow flags here. So whatever the trouble was has now been cleared as Pironi leads up to the Variante Alte. From Tambay, from Piquet, who is 2nd. Behind them, still in 3rd position, Riccardo Patrese. And all the time, as these three are jockeying for the line, they are inevitably slowing each other up because they are not able to go on the ideal line, which is clearly marked by the dry spots. You can see the sort of almost railway line effect on the circuit. But they're straying a bit whilst they jockey for position, and that gives Riccardo Patrese a chance to stay on the right line and to close up. Now watch for the orange car in the background. There is Patrese, who is 3rd. There are the 1st, 2nd and 3rd men, with Tambay moving over and letting Piquet through. That was a truly gentlemanly gesture of the Frenchman. He knew that he wasn't in the running for the race. He must have recognised Piquet and known that Piquet was very much in the running for the lead. He's courteously moved over, which is by no means obligatory and by no means usual, voluntarily to give up a position. And now Piquet can set about the one man in this race that matters to him, and that's Didier Pironi in the turbocharged Ferrari, who is in the lead. And this is lap 36 out of 60. Over half distance, still a long way to go. And Piquet has got a long time to harry, to wear down, to worry, to harass Didier Pironi in front of him. And he set about it straight away with his front wing almost sawing the gearbox of the Ferrari in front of him. And Tambay, having moved over, is showing that he's got the class because he's staying right with the Ferrari and the Brabham. And Patrese's ever closer. Patrese's even closer. Soon the first three are going to be together. And we haven't seen that in a Grand Prix for a long, long time. And we're only just over half distance. Just watch Patrese. He is the man to watch, because although Piquet is pushing Pironi, it's going to be very difficult for him to get past, because Pironi's car is very much faster on the straight. You should see Pironi pull away here when he's got the straight line speed. Yes, you see that. Piquet's got the better handling on the corners, so provided Pironi stays on the racing line, there's no way that Piquet can get past unless he can do a bit of demon late braking. And all Pironi has got to do is stay cool, get his foot hard down on the straight bits, get the right line on the twisted bits, and he's safe, provided the car's reliable. And all the time, I remind you that Riccardo Patrese is gaining. In the blue helmet is Tombe, who has been lapped. And Piquet challenges. He came right up alongside the rear wheel of the Ferrari. He's pushing. He's really pushing for the lead now, and he needs to, because Patrese is going to be worrying Piquet before very much longer. And that is confirmation of what I said earlier on. Gilles Villeneuve is the fastest man on the circuit now. 1 minute 48.6, a lot slower than the lap record, which is 1 minute 36.1, 12 seconds off the lap record pace, but he's the fastest on the circuit. And indeed, Villeneuve is now coming up towards the leaderboard, which is an incredible achievement after leaving the pits in 13th position. He's driving superbly. Pironi leads, Piquet second. Then the orange car of Patrese will come into sight, and there it is in third position. He needs ahead of Tombe. Patrese has got ahead of Tombe, who probably moved over. There he goes. You see the orange car in front of Tombe for the first time, with Jabouille in the lapped Talbot Matra behind him. Pironi into the Acqua Minerale. It must be very, very difficult to stay cool, but he's doing it, and he is an ice-cold man, this Frenchman. Very, very seldom shows any sign of temperament at all. And he's got the right temperament for the situation that he's in now, because above all else, as we look at Patrese getting ever closer, you can almost see him gaining now, because there's Piquet coming in the downhill section towards the Rivazza, and there's Patrese behind him. The first, second and third men are separated by a maximum of 5 seconds on the stopwatch, and we're over 2/3 distance now, because there is the lap 39 time of the fastest man on the circuit, Villeneuve, and Salazar off again. It's not his day one way and another. You'll see he has a broken front wing, and it looks as though he's out of the race altogether. Another lap completed. Pironi leads, Piquet second. Watch for the orange car of Patrese. There he is in third position. Tombe lapped behind him. Reutemann is still in fourth position, the Argentine driver who is leading the World Championship in the Saudi Leyland Williams. And if Reutemann keeps going, it will be to increase his all-time world record of the number of finishes in the World Championship points. He's already finished 13 times in succession, and if he finishes this race, it will be an incredible 14 successive World Championship points finishes. Patrese third there, Tombe behind him. In fifth position, it's the second of the two Brabham cars, Hector Ribac, the Mexican, and De Cesaris, Andrea De Cesaris, in last year's McLaren. A fine drive, is in sixth position. But it's the first three that matters, and they're now almost together. Pironi, Piquet, Patrese. And that's Salazar's car being craned off the circuit. 2/3 distance, that is 40 laps. Pironi, Piquet, Patrese, Reutemann, Ribac, De Cesaris. And there is exactly 3 seconds between Piquet there and Patrese, who is in third position, or there was at the previous lap when that computer printout was done. It looks rather less than 3 seconds to me now. Well, the Italians that stayed away from here at Imola today must feel very, very sorry. They'll be seeing this on television probably and ruining their decision not to go. This is one of the best Formula One World Championship motor races we've seen for a long, long time. Piquet is an incredible young man. He's got a very much older head on his shoulders than the 28 years that he has lived. And I feel that he's driving a tactical race. Challenging all the time, just showing Pironi the nose of the Brabham, then moving across to the other side, then staying behind, as much to say, I'm still here, Didier, don't forget me. And he's coming up to try and take him at the Acqua Minerale. Pironi holds the line. I was a bit ahead of myself. They're on the way to the Acqua Minerale now, and Piquet really challenges right up alongside. And Pironi needed all his cool there to stay where he was entitled to be and force Piquet to brake. And if Pironi has got any worry factors inside him, they must certainly be working now, because Piquet's giving him a very hard time. And in fact, Piquet is having the hardest time of all on the circuit, because on the one hand, he's got Pironi in front of him. On the other hand, in the spare moments when he's got to look in his mirrors, he will see Patrese there getting closer and closer, and he's making his challenge. Piquet is challenging, and he's through. We have a new race leader. This is the third different leader we've had on lap 48, this is. And Nelson Piquet is now through. Nelson Piquet is the third leader. We had Villeneuve, then we had Pironi. Now we have Nelson Piquet in this great motor race at San Marino, the first San Marino Grand Prix, and I think certainly not the last, if we're likely to get any more good races like today's. Great stuff. Piquet then is coming through to finish the first lap that he's done in the lead as we look at the replay of that great passing manoeuvre. Pironi moved to one side. Piquet came right up alongside him, really left his braking until the last split second, and I suspect that Pironi's tyres are starting to go off. And Villeneuve is still tramping on. In fact, Villeneuve is coming up onto the leaderboard as I talk to you, with that lap at just over 1 minute 48 seconds. And Riccardo Patrese is starting to close on Pironi, and look in the short distance since Nelson Piquet that we're looking at now took the lead, how much he has stretched that lead over Didier Pironi. Just showed that he was very much the faster car, and now that he's got past, he's really pulling away. And the challenge in this race now is the challenge that Riccardo Patrese, the second of the two cars that we're looking at, who is in third position in the Arrows, is making to Didier Pironi. There are the positions on lap 47. Piquet leads for the first time. Pironi, Patrese, Reutemann, and Reutemann challenging Didier Pironi. And that is interesting, because it means that Patrese is through, yes. So now Patrese is through, and behind Piquet, there is Pironi. And now, with Piquet leading Patrese, with Pironi in third position and Reutemann in fourth, Carlos Reutemann is demonstrating that there really must be something wrong with the Renault, and as I said, with the Ferrari, and I suspect it's tyres. Didier Pironi, who led the race for so long in the Ferrari, dropped back to second place, and now he's going to drop back to fourth, because Reutemann goes through. Carlos Reutemann goes through into third position, and that could make a big difference to him, because it means that he gets 4 championship points if he finishes in third position. Let's look at it again. Carlos Reutemann taking third position from Didier Pironi, and the Frenchman who drove and has driven and is driving so superbly has lost, first of all, first place, then second place. There is Patrese in second place. Behind him, Reutemann now third. Behind Reutemann is Pironi in the Ferrari. And leading, of course, Nelson Piquet out on his own now in the Brabham, as he was at the Argentine Grand Prix. And just a technical detail, there was an enormous hassle before the first practice session began, because nearly all the cars were excluded because the scrutineers decided that they did not comply with the new regulations, as a result of which a lot of changes had to be made. Only 5 laps to go after that caption. Piquet leading Patrese, then Reutemann, Pironi down to 4th position, as we've seen. Hector Ribach in the second Brabham still in 5th place, and Gilles Villeneuve, that we're looking at now, has finally made it up from 13th to 6th position, by far the fastest man on the circuit. And the Ferraris have really been flying today. We're looking at the fastest man in Formula One racing today. He hasn't been able to prove it for a long time, because he had a car that was, quite frankly, unsuitable in comparison with the competition last year, the T5 Ferrari, which had been good enough to take the World Championship in the hands of Jody Scheckter in 1979, but last year was right off the pace, and even the brilliance of Villeneuve couldn't do anything with it. But now he's back in a car that's really quick, and he's showing that he's the fastest man in Formula One. And if he doesn't win a race before the end of the season, I will be very, very surprised indeed. Look at the way he's going. No question of him winning this one, of course. We're into the closing stages of the San Marino Grand Prix. And Gilles Villeneuve is in 6th position. Ahead of him, Piquet, the leader. Patrese in 2nd position. Reutemann in 3rd. Pironi down to 4th. Hector Ribach in 5th position. And we look at Riccardo Patrese, who is 2nd. 2 Brabhams in the first 6. 1 Arrows, 1 Williams and 2 Ferraris. Riccardo Patrese. And there's that man Tombe again. We've seen a lot of him in this race, and so we should have too, because he has driven magnificently. And although there are no works drives going this year, because all the seats are very much occupied, if he doesn't get a works drive to replace the one that he had with the McLaren team until 1980, I would be amazed and very disappointed. Nelson Piquet leading, not very long to go now, and a long enough lead for him to be able to pace himself to the finish and to be on his way to winning his 2nd Grand Prix in succession. There is Patrese. There's still not very much in it. There's only about, I would say, 10 seconds between Nelson Piquet, that we look at now, and Riccardo Patrese, who is in 2nd place and has got Reutemann only about 5 seconds behind him. So only a maximum, and I'm guessing, I haven't actually timed it on the stopwatch, a maximum of only 15 seconds or so between 1st and 3rd positions as we come up to the last few laps of the San Marino Grand Prix of 1981. A race in which we've seen some great drives, particularly from Piquet, who has come up from 8th to 1st, from Villeneuve. And that is the position at the end of 58 laps, showing that Villeneuve is indeed in 6th position, with Ribach, Pironi, Reutemann, Patrese and Piquet, who is in the background there ahead of him. So Piquet on his last lap but 1, I estimate now. There's René Arnoux in the background, who has dropped well down in the running order. The Turbo Renaults have been a dreadful disappointment this year. Alan Jones there, out of the points. And Jones will be a worried man too, because he is the official Saudi Leyland team leader, and he is very much behind his teammate Carlos Reutemann now. Reutemann won in South Africa, no points for that, but then he went on to finish 2nd at Long Beach, to win in Brazil, and to finish 2nd in the Argentine Grand Prix, as a result of which That's Villeneuve. Villeneuve has slowed right. Look how slow the Ferrari's going. He's slowed right down. Oh, but I was wrong. Something's gone wrong. He speeds up again, but not nearly enough. Villeneuve is in trouble. He must have lost his 6th position to Andrea de Cesaris, and that's a very bitter pill after such a superb drive, and to have come up from 13th position to 6th position. There goes Hector Ribac across the line into his last lap, and indeed that's Villeneuve behind him. There we see confirmation of it. Hector Ribac is up, and that means to say that Villeneuve, with Ribac in 5th position, will have lost his 6th place as the leader, Nelson Piquet, goes through. He's almost home now to see the checkered flag for the 2nd race in succession, and he will undoubtedly, this extremely likeable, very cheerful Brazilian, will be very, very happy to see that checkered flag, because he gets 9 points, and that's going to move him up in the World Championship. And they're on the last lap, and there's tremendous excitement because those 4 contain Patrese, who is 2nd, Reutemann, who is 3rd. The white car behind Patrese is Torbay, and Watson is challenging him for 10th position. Great stuff on the last corners, and Reutemann is being blocked from getting at Patrese and hoping to get 2nd place. Watson coming down to the Ravazza, and he's going to go through and take 10th position. He's really bullying his way past Torbay, and he's done it. Watson goes up to 10th. Torbay goes down to 11th. And there, as Alan Jones comes through, followed by Jean-Pierre Jabouille, is Nelson Piquet on the apex of the corner, coming through to win the San Marino Grand Prix, his 2nd Grand Prix victory in succession. 9 points for the World Championship, a superb drive. Patrese finishes 2nd over the line. Behind him, Carlos Reutemann. There they come. There's Patrese in the orange car. Carlos Reutemann, number 2 in the Williams, finishes in 3rd position. And then coming out is Hector Ribac, who is up into 4th position. Didier Pironi goes down to 5th. And in 6th position, Andrea de Cesaris. Well, we'll wait for official confirmation of that, which I expect we'll see shortly, as a very happy Nelson Piquet and Patrese ahead of him goes round on the lap of honour. Patrese, and that's it. Piquet, Patrese, Reutemann, Ribac, Pironi and de Cesaris, and as a result of that there's a change of course in the World Championship positions, because that means to say that Carlos Reutemann is still leading with 25 points now, but there is the man who is now 2nd, Nelson Piquet, with 22 points. Alan Jones goes down to 3rd. Patrese is 4th, and Alain Prost in 5th position after a very exciting San Marino Grand Prix, and the next one is in Belgium on May the 17th.